This game right here is one of my favorite games of all time. Legitimately fighting for that top spot. And no game has really invoked such an emotional awakening in me, to the point where it's honestly changed my perception on story-driven games. And that's not to say this is the first good story-based game, and also the term story-based or story-driven does irk me, but that's not the point I'm trying to make here. The writing, the voice acting, the music, holy fuck. The music in this game just makes every moment feel so important. All of it just comes together to tell a story that makes you question how to move forward and what it means to take the next step for those who come after. But I'm gonna come in with maybe a hot take here. Clair Obscure's combat is just kind of fine in my opinion.
Huh?
One of Expedition 33's greatest strength is its pacing. Never once did I really feel like I was stuck in one part of the story for too long. As a medical student who's both working in the hospital and coming home to study, playing JRPGs that rack up the playtime with bloated dialogue and unnecessary enemies/grinding really feels exhausting at times, and Expedition 33 was a breath of fresh air for me. Now, before I get attacked, I'm sure some people really like those games and deem the playtime necessary for the full experience of the story. I don't think they're wrong. However, when you're working with limited time on your hand and I get told to expect 80 hours of gameplay ahead of me and you don't really come out swinging with a banger right away, you make it hard for me to wait it out. I played 50 hours of Persona 5 and I decided that the only parts I really enjoyed were maybe the story, big maybe, and the final boss fights in each of the areas. All the mobs I'm forced to fight and burgers I have to eat to get certain attribute points was kind of a chore I felt I was being forced to do to obtain the cool items or powers that I wanted in the game. I'm getting off track. Expedition 33 just hits you with big moment after moment, and in hindsight, a lot of those fights don't actually mean that much, but the game made you feel like it did. I would often fight a new enemy just so that I can see their moves, but the game allows you to then run past them, and there was never a concern for me being 200 leveled either, because there's actually two routes really to play this game, I feel. Skill versus power. Parrying adds a satisfying and powerful skill check for players to never lose if they're perfect. And if you're not perfect, you can just power up more through pictos, Lumina points, weapons, and even just leveling up in general. The game's pace felt perfect. I was never too strong, but I also never really felt too weak either. That is, until the side content. Two of these motherfuckers. What the fuck? What is this? Fuck! Fucking Shadow Clone Jutsu or some shit. Fuck. Okay. Oh my goodness! I understand it now, bro. Ugh. When are you gonna stop hitting me? It's fine. We're getting it now. We're getting it. Wait, what the fuck? Oh my gosh, I got hit twice! Why isn't their health moving? Oh, brother! When does it end? Oh my gosh. Yeah, bro, cool. Chill. Chill. She's been dead, bro. She's been dead. Okay. I just need to get enough to at least hit him with a gomage. Oh, fuck you! Why didn't that do more damage? I don't have Virtuoso right now. But I also need... Oh gosh. Let's just see how much it does. There's just no way. If you can compare Clair Obscure's main story to a professional runner who has a steady stride with escalating stakes and emotions as they reach the finish line, the side content feels more like I'm running, constantly taking breaks and walking before going all out again for a sprint, unable to really discern when to speed up and when to slow down, never really able to find my pace, and failing to ever truly reach a flow state, as it's all I can do to keep myself still standing. Maybe that's a bit harsh, but I genuinely believe my experience would have been tainted if I had attempted to do the side quests on my original playthrough. And nothing quite summarizes my feelings as much as the Simon fight does. Before the DLC was released, Simon was by far the hardest fight in Clair Obscure, and I entered this fight in my around mid to late 70s in terms of level. It took me 9 hours to beat Simon. My total playtime after beating him is 38 hours on this game. And in those 9 hours, I realized something. My numbers were not high enough. The choice that I thought the game had given me, the rule that if I was skilled enough, if I was perfect enough, then my numbers didn't matter, that rule was being broken. I couldn't win. Now, this isn't entirely true. In fact, I didn't end up needing to level up to beat Simon. I changed around Pictos, tried different strategies, and ran right into that brick wall of a boss fight over and over again until I was perfect. Because while perfection in the past meant surviving my enemy's barrage for 5 to 10 minutes with the occasional mistake that could be rectified with healing or reviving, perfection here meant just that. It meant perfection. If I get hit, my character dies, and not only do they die, they get erased from the canvas. So for 30 minutes, I have to play perfectly. Okay, for the strategy, Verso, you'll have to be the main damage dealer first, and we'll use Angel's Eyes so that you'll never die. Then, Mael, you'll be in reserve to finish him using the Gomage. Okay guys, let's do this. God fucking damn it, we lost Lune and Minoka. What do we do? I can only bring back one right now. The other one's gonna get erased. What do I do? I'm sorry, Minoka. I promise I'll win this and I'll bring you back. Lune, watch out! Verso, it's all up to you. You have to win now. You have to parry these. You can't get hit. Is it over? Not yet. Not when everyone's counting on you, Verso. This will be my last attack for now. I'll leave it to you, Mael. know you've been through a lot, but it's time you get out of this canvas. Now, who's next? Okay, now, I'm not exaggerating. My numbers aren't big enough for the DLC bosses. I'm not even going to fight them. I don't care. My point, though, is that the combat kind of showed its weakness here to me, and it was only ever revealed because of game balance. While the rest of the game made me feel like I could kind of just play how I wanted and explore different options and builds, this fight made me feel like I was missing something. But at the same time, I watched some people on YouTube beat the ever-living dog shit out of Simon. Players who one-shotted him or just did so much damage they never even got to see his third phase where he clears the canvas and all of your characters. Players would have characters so high-leveled that they didn't have to survive the barrage of blows that I faced and were given a chance to revive their characters in between deaths. I'm sure there's a middle ground to make the fight more enjoyable, but I compared the feeling to a Dark Souls boss, and Elden Ring specifically, and those games were a clear inspiration for this fight. I mean, he legit has Moonlight Greatsword during his second phase. I played those games similarly how I played this fight. I threw my head at it with what I had until I won. But I kind of questioned what made it feel so different for me. And I think at the end of the day it becomes choice and identity. Elden Ring or even FromSoft's other games like Dark Souls give the player this level of choice to often face unfair enemies in a variety of ways. From shields to magic to buffs to special items to summons in Elden Ring. I can go on and on. Expedition 33 fails to really provide the player such choice, and instead your options are to attack and parry, or dodge I guess. Obviously there are some nuances here. There are buffs, a small number of items, and moves behave differently obviously on different characters, but I don't think my gameplay strategy would change much from playthrough to playthrough like it does in a normal FromSoft game, which is fine. FromSoft themselves legit have a game where they strip the player of all these choices that I just talked about. Sekiro. But the one big difference I think in Sekiro is the game limits you very purposefully. You are Wolf, and so you can only be as strong as he is, or rather, you must be as strong as he is to win. And so every player, no matter what they do, is generally experiencing the same level of gameplay. There are never any questions on if the boss fight is too easy or too hard. And to be completely honest, I think that's why that game can be really polarizing for people, because many players struggle with loving Sekiro like the other Souls games. However, what Sekiro sacrifices in freedom is immersion. And I think this is where Expedition 33 loses its identity to me. Simon is supposed to be the strongest. It should be a difficult fight. However, up to this point, the game conveys these feelings less with unfair and broken mechanics and more with spectacles through dialogue and cutscenes. We fight many quote-unquote unbeatable opponents, but this is not a story about being the strongest paintress or whatever. It's a story about grief and how we explore those difficult emotions through the gameplay. I think the combat in Clair Obscur is pretty basic and generally one note. I never had to strategize differently from boss to boss. Even for Simon, I mean, it was just about removing any of my healing pictos and just adding damage once. But I think that's okay. The game isn't really about that. You still get the hype moments when you land a counter and the disappointment from a mistimed parry leading to your death. It provides a basic but satisfying gameplay loop that never overstays its welcome for fight to fight, and allows you to immerse yourself in the characters' stories while not getting bogged down by overly complex game mechanics. When I say the combat's just fine, it mostly comes out of my experience playing the side content or the post-game. I never really cared about the repetitive nature of the combat until it started overtaking the broader narrative for the centerpiece of my attention. Because when these fights start taking me 20, 30, 40 minutes just to complete, I'm not really thinking about the story anymore. The game's identity isn't really shaped by its combat for me. It's the story and its characters enhanced by the music to invoke intense emotions from the players. It speaks to how much the narrative moved me, that I still would consider it one of the greatest games I've ever played, and is one I will genuinely be thinking about for years to come.